episode, but.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to this edition of Drive Time. I am joined by my lovely co-host, as always, Showtime Sarah, and the one and only Scooter. Showtime, how are we doing this fine, lovely Monday? You're done with your finals. Are you celebrating?
Not yet. I'm still waiting on run result, which I'm kind of worried about because it was kind of like borderline. So praying on a miracle for sure. But the other one we're good. We got that through. So it's just waiting on other things. But I at least get a week of relaxation before I kick back into summer classes. So
That's right, because then back you go into more fun.
mm-hmm.
Well, that's okay. At least as long as you do well, I'll be happy. C's are fine. I'll take C's right now. Just get her done.
Mm-hmm.
Scooter, how are you doing today, sir?
Oh, everything is great. We had wonderful. I hope all the mothers out there had a great day yesterday, and remembrance of mothers who are not here anymore. So I was lucky enough to spend a little time with my stepmother, and then I got the little conversation with my mother down in Florida, and everyone's doing great.
Well, that is good to hear. Glad to hear everyone's doing good. Hope the same thing to you. We had a fun Mother's Day. Teddy, we took Teddy's mom and them all. We went to his first guards game yesterday. So and he did very well throughout the whole entire game. So didn't have any real meltdowns. Wasn't really watching too much of it. Even took a little nap during it. So but for as cool as it was, he did pretty good. Unfortunately, the guards did not do so well. But we'll save that for when we get to some baseball talk here in a little bit. So but it was a good time for sure. All right, so of course, you can watch our shows live on YouTube, Facebook, and X, and we are now 24/7 on YouTube. And you can also listen to us the next day on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Pocket Cast, and Podbean, and Castbox. So there is a course where you can catch all of us, and of course, you can always like, follow, and subscribe to us on Facebook or YouTube or anywhere. So please do so, and then we're happy when you do that. So there's the fun part. Now, I'll be honest. So we do have, of course, a couple of rest in peace, and these are going to hit anyone that is a Braves fan really hard. And I almost honestly thought about starting today's show at 5:05 just to honor Ted Turner.
Yeah.
I thought that would have been the appropriate thing to do, is to start a show at 5 after the hour. But it started off early in, short. I think this was either Tuesday or Wednesday of last week when Ted Turner passed away, longtime owner of the Atlanta Braves, the Atlanta Hawks, NCW Wrestling, TBS, CNN, you name it, anything dealing with Atlanta on TV. He was the pioneer of that. Of course, was probably best known, I think, sports fans wise, for getting Braves baseball on TBS. I think realistically, if it wasn't for the Braves being on TBS, I don't know if things like ESPN would exist. I think he showed that there was an audience for sports teams being on TV, and more than just on a local network or having the one game a week on TV, that it would be watched. And so, I think a lot of the credit of what we get to watch today in sports goes back to Ted Turner. So for that part of it, it's definitely something that will be missed, and he's definitely an icon in that regard. So I'll start off with Scooter, because this was probably a little bit before Sarah's time, of course. So we'll start off with Scooter. Any thoughts on the passing of Ted Turner?
So it's interesting you brought up the ESPN thing. In fact, at that same time, the communications and cable news and satellite, that in the mid to late 70s was changing. People were coming up with these ideas on their own. So Ted Turner was coming up with this idea. He bought a station a few years earlier, but he was coming up with this idea for the TBS specifically and originally. But with ESPN, it was to the Richardsons, who Bill Richardson was actually the communications director for the New England Whalers. And we got fired, and then he came up with this idea that, hey, let's do a Connecticut-based 24-hour sports network. And so that got upgraded to, with certain deals, satellite deals, which is exactly how Ted Turner did it, with these companies across the country. And that's when cable companies are coming up as well. And so they got these two companies were getting satellites. So it was amazing what these guys did. But yeah, Ted Turner, yeah, he was. I mean, he's in the national yachting in sailing. He won 2 America's Cups, which is a prestigious uh, uh, ocean boat race in the world. He won 2 of them. What he did for history was when he bought what was it MGM? He bought MGM, and he was able to get all the MGM movies produced. So he had them all, and then he came up with the Turner Classic Networks because of his MGM. So he was really like when he saw stuff, he would go and do it, and he took care of business. It is amazing though when we get into the coach after this, but Ted was a voice. They called him the mouth of the South for a while. He had no problem talking about how he felt. He was known for screaming on his yachts to women that were on other boats, "Let us see your does." So he was really a vocacious type of a person.
Yeah.
He was also at one time he owned more land, private land in the United States than anyone did, and I think that was up to like about 15 years ago. And he also, because of him, he's a big Civil War guy. He was actually in both the movies that he financed and produced, Gettysburg and Gods and Generals. He's in both of them, plays the same Southern colonel. So, God bless him, and rest in peace, Ted.
Agree. Sarah, any thoughts for you? I know this was, like I said, well before your time in any type of TV watching or sports watching on TV.
Yeah, I can't really tell you much, unfortunately. I mean, it sucks, but
Well, right. That's fine. That's fair enough. That's a good spot. And then, so Scooter brought up this one, of course, in the second part of this one. This one happened later towards the weekend. The unfortunate passing of Bobby Cox, best known as manager of the Braves. He managed the Braves twice. He also managed a stint in Toronto in between them. He had a 2-year playing career with the Yankees, mostly as a minor league player, but like a lot of these players that have a more of a minor league career, they end up making really, really good managers, and Bobby was one of the best. He did, of course, finally win the World Series in '95, which was happy for him personally. Sucked because that was against my Cleveland Indians.
Yeah.
So, and that team I thought had the potential to do it that year too. So that was the only bad part. He holds a couple different records. This one I love, and I think it's one that probably is not going to be broken just because with ABS and the challenge system of replays, he has the record for 162 ejections, and I don't know that anyone's going to come close to that in today's baseball, just because the opportunity to get ejected just doesn't really happen with the ability to replay, safe and outs and now even strikes and balls. It should lead to less people getting ejected. So he holds that record, but he also has the most. What is it here? Where is it at? I lost my 16 playoff appearances. So that's the other record that he holds. So career though wise, he went for 2,504 wins, 2,001 losses, 67 and 69 in the playoffs. Obviously in the Atlanta Baseball Hall of Fame, he's a legend down there. So I know this one hurts Atlanta fans a lot because he brought them their world championship. So definitely a hard one for baseball fans, I think. And Scooter, what are your thoughts from the Bobby Cox?
Well, Bobby Cox was probably, I was a huge Yankee fan back then. And Bobby Cox was probably one of the greatest managers I've ever seen in my lifetime, even though he only won 1 World Series. Like, I mean, that guy, he was a rock. He would get thrown out of games. That's true. But remember his span as the manager was so long. He would get through it, you just start adding them up. All of a sudden you're leading everything and getting kicked out of games. But he would be sitting there on the bench, just staring. And he'd have Leo Maroney, his pitching coach from 1979 to 2005, going. And it was the funniest thing. And every once in a while, Bobby Cox would be like, and then Maroney would laugh. And so, I mean, the two of them were together for all that time, and Leo, he had some of the greatest pitchers to ever pitch in Major League Baseball. So they understood, with Glavine, Smoltz, and why am I busting on
Glavine, Smoltz, Glavin. Maddox.
Maddox. Yeah, I don't know why
There
I
you go.
busted on that one.
I did do that for a second.
But they had those guys for so long. And if you can have three of the greatest pitchers of all time for that many years, you're going to win a lot of games. So, I mean, Bobby Cox just was a rock.
And they did win a lot of games, that is for sure.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he was definitely a legend for sure. Sarah, anything on to add with Bobby Cox?
I don't got anything.
I know it's before your. These are all before your time, so enjoy the fact that they are before your time. So, all right, so let's get into some Osei Can You Sings. We do have some more here to update from the last time we had. The divisional round. Adam Lee Decker, he's getting better as. There's a couple people that got better as the playoffs have gone along. I mean, he's still not scoring great, but he's scoring well for him. Carnell Johnson, of course, from Vegas. I joke he can do like a 47 in his sleep. I think like he's just always great. Amanda Hawkins, which does Colorado, she's growing on me this year. Like she's done a good job. Lauren Hart. I'm glad that Philly's done. We'll get into that later. I love the idea of doing God Bless America. I think it's great to honor Katie Smith. And Philly fans seem to love her. I don't get it. Like I just don't like her voice. She gets pitchier and pitchier every time. Cammie Clune in Buffalo, I'm really liking what she's doing. She's got some good solid scores. I don't know what Montreal's doing. That they're kind of aggravating me because they got the one guy that's really good, which is Alexandre. But they keep swapping out and doing different people. And last night they did Sherilyn Token. She was okay. Wasn't fine. I you know me. I still don't like the mix and match in either. I'd be okay either sing it all in French or sing it all in English. For me, I hate that they do in both. I just would rather do one or the other. We finally got our first Anaheim anthem because for whatever reason, it just hasn't worked out for Anaheim. Being the late game, they've had a lot of games with overtime, so they haven't shown a lot of their anthems. So finally got to see an anthem. Tim Kepler was the guy that did it last night. Did pretty good, a solid 42. So most of these are pretty solid. Like I said, Lauren Hart did not end up doing so well. So like if we bring up her, since she is now officially done, since the Flyers got eliminated, we'll get into that a little bit later on. But if we come over here, we can bring her up here, and you can see overall, she never really got. Her highest score was a 42. Her lowest was a 39 and a 38. So not very good for any Lauren Hart fans out there. But she's done since they are out of it. Let's see here. Who else do we want to bring up here from that? Just well, no, everyone's still kind of going. But we're talking about where's Amanda? Here she is. Hawkins. That's right, Amanda. So like I was talking about how she's kind of growing on me. So yeah, she's got 44. Her 40 was from last year, but this year she's gotten 44 and 45. So she must have seen my rankings from last year, wanted to improve, and this year she's scoring 44s and 45. So she's clearly watching and taking my rankings very, very seriously, obviously, right? That's why.
That's exactly why.
Thank you. That's the answer I wanted there. So, all right. So that's it. So there's a few more entries into Osei Can You Sing. Do have, of course, now the weekend drive-through. We'll get through a couple of non-hockey and baseball things. We're going to save the hockey and baseball, of course, for when we get to the line drive, and then drive to the net. So real quick, some NBA series updates. We've got Detroit is leading Cleveland 2-1. The Knicks just absolutely rolled over Philly and look like they are well on their way. That was 4-0, and that 4-0 wasn't even really that close. San Antonio and Minnesota are tied at 2, and OKC can take care of the Lakers tonight. They are up in that series 3-0, and another series that really has not been competitive at all. Of course, for more in-depth on these NBA series, Nothing But Net on Wednesday nights is your show to watch. The guys, Perry and the Midnight Rider and whoever they have on as guests, do an amazing job of getting you all up to date on everything dealing with the NBA. I'm just going to touch on it quickly because it's not my area of expertise. And Scooter, any thoughts on any of these series or anything?
All I noticed is that James Harden actually had a good game in the playoffs. So, Cleveland wins.
He had a good first series, but I would not say he's been so up and down for Cleveland. And it's been very obvious when he plays badly, they have lost. Game 3, I mean, he hit the big clutch shot for sure. That 3-pointer, to basically win the game was clutch. But we'll see. I'm still not sold on my Cavs getting past this series. That's a big game for them tonight too.
Well, I mean, it wasn't looking that great for him, but the back.
Yeah, they got one win, which was because that was Saturday, and for those that don't know, where Rocket Mortgage is and Progressive Field are, they are literally right next to each other, and about 6 blocks down one direction is the football stadium. So Saturday in downtown Cleveland, you had the Cleveland State commencement starting at 2 o'clock, which is also about 4 blocks the other way. You had the Cavaliers starting at 3 o'clock. You had the Guards game starting at 6 o'clock. They had a country music concert at the stadium at 7:30, and then there were two different. You had the big productions from Playhouse Square, which is also right in that same area, all going on Saturday night. So I think they estimated something like there's going to be like 200,000 people in downtown Cleveland throughout the entire course of the day. So the businesses were very happy. The parking garages were very happy, charging top dollar for events in Cleveland on Saturday.
Yeah, in your face, all you people that say Cleveland's boring. Cleveland rocks.
That's right.
I've never been there, though.
Yeah, well, one of these days we'll get you here for a game.
I'd like to. I want to get there.
Yeah. Yep. Showtime, any thoughts on any of the NBA stuff?
Oh, Victor didn't get a suspension. He got into a little Victor, Kevin. He got into a little squabble. They were talking about how he might get suspended, but he is not. So,
that's good for him. No suspensions for him.
And I think that just came about like an hour or two ago.
Yep. And then I think this was yesterday. The NBA had their draft lottery. The Washington Wizards are the winner of the first pick. Again, I know the guys on Nothing But Net will break this down because there are a few different Wizard fans there. I'm sure they are very stoked about this. I already know in the chat that they were kind of mentioning what they should do is that they should take the one, or they should maybe trade down and get some more picks and some more assets. Scooter, I don't know if you followed tremendously, but I believe you're a Wizards fan. Were you happy to see that the Wizards got the number one pick?
I think they should keep John Wall around for whatever, because he's kind of like a good luck charm for the team, and keep him around, put him in some position somewhere,
Yeah, he got.
He was a good player too. Back.
He was.
I mean, that he was fun to watch, and it was unfortunate that whole thing went south after a few years, but that wasn't his fault.
Yeah, sometimes that stuff happens.
Yeah.
Sarah, anything yet? Anything? No? Okay. That's why we have her on the show.
These aren't my sports.
I know. And then
she's not the most talkative analyst out there, folks.
Right now, no. She's saving it for the hockey stuff. And then this late news, not really late, but happened today. David Njoku, who is, of course, from the Browns, one of the better tight ends in the league, just on a really bad team, signs just a 1-year deal with the Los Angeles Chargers. So he's going to be having Herbert throwing the ball. Definitely gives some more weapons. I'm not really excited to see him in the AFC West and have to go against them twice for sure. So I think, unfortunately, I think this is a great signing for the Chargers. It gives them yet another piece to their offensive puzzle that they have. It's just going to give Herbert one more target. And, Harbaugh's always favored the tight ends. So I think this is definitely an upgrade at tight end for them. And it'll be interesting to see fantasy football time, how David Njoku moves up on the tight end board as far as drafting goes. So, Scooter, what are your thoughts on this signing?
So the first thing was, I mean, it makes sense. He's going to fight. He's going to go somewhere, obviously, because he's really good. Except he had a down year last year with the injuries and everything. And that what was his name? Fallon. That guy took over. I forget his name.
He did.
So he took over, and it's like everyone knew where that's going. And so the interesting thing is, and the first thing I'm like, okay, but the Chargers, like they have Aronde Gadsden Jr., who's really looking like something. I mean, they split him out wide. Sometimes because he's such an athlete, but Herbert, it is another weapon. Then I thought about it, Mike McDaniel's there, and he didn't have any tight. He had Jono Smith for like 1 year in Miami, so Smythe was one of his starting tight ends, and then. He didn't have anyone out there. And then if you look at the last time he was an OC, he was in San Francisco. The second leading target was Kittle on the team. And he was top 4 in tight ends and receptions. Now, he didn't have as many targets, but that's because there's a lot of things to go around over there. So he can, Mike can move people around. And they can have Joku on as tight end, and then both Joku and Gadsden could be tight end, and then they just spread out Gadsden because he's that kind of freak athlete. And now you got something that, that's kind of something to play with.
I agree. I think I like it for them, and you're seeing more and more teams, go with two solid receiving tight ends anyway. It just puts more pressure on the defensive backs and the linebackers to try to cover them. So, Sarah, anything on this one? She's just muted herself. She's
So
like, I'm just done.
So plus with
Oh,
Joku, the interesting thing is like he brings in what is it 10 years of experience in the
yep.
NFL. Okay, that's really helpful to a young Rondé Gadsden Jr. in there. Not that Rondé Gadsden Jr. needs a lot of help being mentored. I mean, his dad was an NFL football player for like 12 years, so he knows the whole process. But it's good to have that. And sometimes these older tight ends, they go to a new team. We've seen that in Washington several times where this this old tight end who was really good once comes and flashes again for a few seasons. So this could be interesting.
Yep, I think I like it overall for them. So, all right. So there's our quick hits from the weekend. We're going to get into some baseball next, but first we're going to take this commercial break, and then we will be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. It's time for a little baseball. So welcome to the Line Drive segment. Let me pull that back up there now. That's right. There we go. All right. So we're going to start off with this. And my question is going to be this, and I'm going to bring up the standings. Is the American League really this bad? And when I ask that question, it's because if you look at these, you will see that there are 3 teams, ladies and gentlemen, above 500 in the American League. That number is correct. 3. You have the Tampa Bay Rays at 26-13, the New York Yankees at 26-15, and then you have the Oakland, Sacramento, Las Vegas, Milwaukee, Philadelphia Athletics at 21-19. So that's it. Those are your 3 teams that are above 500. Cleveland was above 500. They lost yesterday, so now they're back to the 500 mark at 21-21. But that is what's going on. And a lot of this is because when we see the National League, you're going to see that unfortunately they are just getting waxed when it comes to interleague play. Let me pull up my number here that I have it here. They are 48-30 against the National League is against the American League, so that's a big 18-game difference there, and that is where you're seeing a lot of this difference, where just these American League teams are getting waxed by the National League teams when they play each other. So I'll ask you, Scooter, is the American League really this bad?
I mean, we know that there's some really good teams in there that are at 500 or under 500, so they're not that bad. It's actually, I think a lot of it is there's a lot of the decent teams, but not a whole bunch of bad teams. If you get where I'm going with that.
Yeah, I mean, you see that in these standings. Like the worst teams are Houston and the Angels at 16-25, and
Yeah.
that's not completely terrible. They're almost at a 400 winning percentage. But yeah, a lot of the league is at 19-22 to. There's a lot of 19-21s and 19-22s and 18-23s, so they're not too far off the 500 line.
Right.
Just not good. So, Sarah, what do you think on this one? Anything on? Do you think that the American League is really this bad?
I don't think it's necessarily about them being that bad. I mean, at least just looking at division wise, like the AL East, like it's obviously like Tampa and New York on top, but I mean, at least Toronto is only like 4 games, at least 8.5 games behind them, but like 4 games away from being a 500. It's not exactly like crucial. Now, obviously, if you're talking about I would obviously say Boston probably has a little bit more to go because they're 6 games behind. I think if there are more teams below 40, then it would be oh yeah, they're just bad. But there's really not. And I mean, at least in the AL Central, you still have Chicago, Detroit, and Kansas City all at 19 wins, and then 21 or 22 losses. That's 3 games, 2 games behind. The AL Central is right there. I would think they're all kind of competing at they're all competing for number one, but they're still competing at that 500 line, I would say. There's nobody that's really fully dropped off other than probably LA and Houston, where it's just kind of like, obviously things are slimming down. And
Yeah,
hey, they're better than the New York Mets, so.
Oh, that's true. You brought up the Blue Jays, and I think that the Blue Jays have had a lot of injuries this year too. So I think they're
Well,
just
yeah.
trying to.
They just got Trey Savage back.
Yep, I think they're just trying to tread water, which they've done successfully. Because the good news is the wild card teams right now are, other than the Yankees, like wild card 2 and 3 are completely up for grabs amongst all these teams right now. So they're all going to be close together. We talked about the AL Central. The injuries. They're talking about injuries in Detroit. Tariq Skubal is going to be a big injury for them. They've had a couple other ones too.
They're in trouble.
Cleveland and Kansas City just have not put it together yet, like they've shown. And the guards have been equally frustrating. They show these glimpses where they'll win a couple in a row and then they turn right back around and lose 2 in a row. So they have not been able to put together a streak, and man, they cannot hit with runners in scoring position. It's just been terrible so far for them. So hopefully that can turn around. They've got some young kids up that are at least interesting to see. My next question I'm going to pose to you guys is, can the A's keep this going? Like, if you had told me that only 3 teams were going to be above 500 going into this year at the 40 game mark, I would not have put the A's into being one of the 3. And the league does not want to see a playoff game in Sacramento. Like, they just do not want that at all come playoff time. So I'm kind of rooting for it, because to me
I want to see it.
I do too, because the league doesn't want this with everything that happened there. Like, so now I'm rooting for it because I think it'd be a great little punch in the nuts for one Rob Manfred. So I'm rooting for this. So do you think they can keep it together? Scooter, you go first.
Yeah, they can. I think we talked about the A's before the season started as, kind of people were picking them as a kind of a sleeper pick, and they had some good young players that looked pretty good. And so I think that they can keep that going. Now, Seattle's not playing up to what they're supposed to play to. So at some point, you got to think that's going to pop back in there. So the A's, I think, at some point they're going to lose a few, and then Seattle's going to win. They're going to start slowly eking back up against them. So it should be interesting. It's going to be a fun little race there.
Sarah, any thought on if the A's can keep it together?
Oh my god. I think so, yeah. I still think it's, they only have a 2-game lead behind Texas, and I don't really obviously know full on Texas's roster to really kind of describe what's going on with them, but I think that Texas would still be in it, and obviously Seattle could easily come up from them too. But I still think the A's have a good chance of keeping that number 1 spot, or at least being being competitive.
And the last question I have, which is, it follows in this comment with this guy named Ben Conti 10222 #MidnightWriter and poet guy. Screw, I love it when you peek your head over the comment. It just cracks me up every time. I guess those trash cans in Houston lost their mojo, and that is my question here. Is this the time where Houston is Houston really done now? It's another team that's had some injuries. They're still scoring runs, like Yonder is having a hell of a season for them, but their pitching is injured, and what pitching they have is not good, and they are sitting there at 16 and 25. But they do score some runs. So, Scooter, do you think Houston's done, or are we finally seeing the end of the Houston run, or do they have something? Do they have some mojo left in those trash cans, as Midnight Rider says?
Yeah, I don't know if they're down by 9 games right now. That's going to be difficult, especially with a few injuries going on there. They have to really start doing well, and the odds are stacked against them for this year. However, if they're a good franchise, they're going to look at what they did and say, retool to get back into the playoffs next year. Good franchises do that. We'll see if Houston is a good franchise, because some of those players, they got to move them out and add some new blood in there. But we'll see.
So that's our American League. So, of course, we're talking about the bad of the American League. That means that then if we flip over here to the National League, you're going to see a much different story, and that's the case. The results are 8 teams are above 500. Mostly it's from the interleague play that I talked about before, where the National League is 48-30 so far this year. Um, Atlanta right now just running. This is probably the only real runaway right now. They have a 9-game lead over the East because the Phillies have not. They've gotten a little bit better since the manager change, but not much. The Mets are still the Mets. I'll say this. I think the Nats are a pleasant surprise at 19-22. They're showing some nice building pieces for the future. Miami, a little surprised that they're at 19-22 too. I thought that they would maybe make a step this year. So just not. That's the only division in the NL that we're just not seeing it yet. But Atlanta just had a big weekend series too, where they took 2 out of 3 from LA. That Atlanta squad is legit if they can stay healthy, and that's the big question. Scooter, can they stay healthy and stay on top of that NL East?
Yeah, even if they do get injured, they're still the best team in baseball. There's no question about it. And I don't care what they say about the Dodgers or the Yankees or who said the Rays, whatever, and the Cubs now. I mean, the Braves are the tier right now. Got to catch the Braves, and if they do get injured, I bet they're going to be able to work right through it.
Yep, that's the best team too in the majors right now is the Atlanta Braves. Right behind them, they just lost a couple in a row, but before that, the Chicago Cubs had run off 10 in a row.
Yeah,
And
they
this
did.
Central Division is so crazy. Every team is still above 500. But if you remember, I think the last time when we talked about the standings, Cincy was in front, Chicago is towards the bottom. Since then, Cincy went on a 10-game losing streak. They just ended that. Chicago went on a 9-game winning streak, which just ended. And basically, those two have flip-flopped, and everyone else is just there. So there we are. So I don't know who's going to come out of this division. I still love the Pirates. They're a fun story. I'd like to see the Reds come out of it too. But the Cubs, I think, we talked about them at the beginning of the season. They're starting to show some life in this division. Scooter, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, that would be cool to see Pittsburgh do it. And it is pretty interesting to see all these teams right now doing quite well. I mean, these are good. These are good teams at this moment in time, and so I would like to see Pittsburgh do it, but I think Chicago, when it comes to like franchise stuff, they got that going with them in St. Louis right now. But so we'll have to see.
Agree. Real quick before we get to you, Sarah, Chipper joining us, just checking in. Soon talked hockey. We have not talked hockey yet, so you can hold on to that, Chipper. We always save hockey for last around here, so we save the best for last. Too early tell in division. Probably get some separation another month. Yeah, I agree. I think 40 games is where you can just kind of start peeking at division. We'll probably only do this about every 20 games or so, just to see what movement. So we won't do it like hockey, where I was pulling up the division, the standings every week to see that move. So. Sarah, any thoughts on the NL Central and how good it is right now?
I mean, yeah, Chicago definitely takes it away. But I mean, you do still have Milwaukee and St. Louis above 500 if we're talking about that. So I did think that Chicago probably does have that, that one spot pretty solidly. But obviously kudos to Milwaukee and St. Louis. I'm sure they could still get a wild card. Then if we're looking at the standings already for that.
It's going to be 2 teams coming out of the Central. If you looked at the wild card right now, because right now in the West, you've got San Diego and LA, both at 24-16. And it seems like last year we were talking about this a lot, where it just seemed like LA just hangs with the team in the NL West. And then they turn it on when they need to, because that payroll is what it is and that roster is what it is. So it feels like LA is playing with its food again so far this year, but San Diego, credit to them, they're off to a really good start too at 24-16. They're right there with them. So the question to you, Scooter, is can San Diego hang with LA?
Yeah, I think they can. Will they? I don't know if they will, but they certainly can. I mean, they're a good team right now, and they, if they could just keep this going, they could be the surprise winner of this division. However, again, it's the Dodgers, but also I like Arizona still, and I think that they have a really good chance to jump in there. So they're going to keep battling it out too. But right now, San Diego's the cream.
I agree. Real quick, Chipper is throwing in here. Cardinals hanging strong, but not sure they can last in what's supposed to be a rebuild type year. Yeah, I mean that's another team that everyone said they're in rebuild mode, but yet here they are sitting there at 23-17, right? So you just never know with baseball how that's going to play out. So Sarah, do you think do you think the Padres can hang with your favorite LA Dodgers?
What? No. No. Look. San Diego is on top of LA. I know they're tied. I don't care. I'm still taking that because I predicted that, okay? LA's not. We're good. We're fine, okay? The LA will fall off eventually. I'm sure it'll be fine. Okay. San Diego's on top. That's all that matters.
You can tell Sarah's not on her game today because I gave her 2 different softballs to say that she hates the Yankees
Guys,
and she hates the Dodgers, and she took neither one of them.
guys, I'm sorry. There was a 40 top at work. I didn't take it, but just seeing a 40 top was killing me inside. I'm fighting off a nap right now. I'm so honest.
All right, so let's get into some fun here too of stat leaders. I always like this is just the top 5. I took the top 5. There could be some guys that are tied here. Batting average, Brandon Marsh, the old man, Brandon Marsh, hanging in there with a nice 353 for Philly. Otto Lopez having a good year for Miami at 344. Andy Podges and the Dodgers, a bit of a pleasant surprise at 333. Home runs, not really any surprise here. You've got Judge Schwarber. You got the rookie and Murakami for the White Sox crushing it. Matt Olson for Atlanta, and I love seeing Byron Buxton. I'm really happy for him. The kid's battled injuries for the last couple of years, but he's doing well for the Twins with 13 homers. So, any surprises to you on this list, Scooter, for batting average and home runs?
I mean, the averages. I mean, there's some good averages out there right now. We'll see how they weed itself out there because there's going to be some guys that are going to get into some slumps, and there's going to be guys that are slumping right now that'll get up there. So, but but it is good to see, like you said, Marsh and Schwarber. Remember when people were counting out the Phillies
Yeah.
and they got Donnie baseball? Now it's all good again. So
Yeah, hopefully that turns out well. So talking about LA, Chipper, it doesn't matter, would be a collapse if LA doesn't win the division and at least NL championship series. Oh, 100% agree on that. Yeah, it would be a collapse. I'm sure it's not going to happen, but I would love for it to happen. So, Sarah, any thoughts on your favorite player, Aaron Judge, leading the league in homers?
I never said that. I've never said that. Gun to my head, I'd shoot it. I would never say that. Look, just switch it with Kyle Schwarber. They're tied. Aaron Judge isn't that good. Okay, Kyle Schwarber is better than Aaron Judge. Okay.
Again, she just won't take it. I'm trying, not working. So, all right, runs batted in. Matt Olson, 36. Another talk about a pleasant surprise. C.J. Abrams for the Nats, leading, tied for the league at 36. Andy Podges at 35. Liam Hicks for Miami at 35. Drake Baldwin's having a great year for Atlanta at 32. Then overall hits, you got Odo. And this is a surprise. Usually, if you're up there with in the batting average, you're going to be leading the league in hits. And you got Podges there, which leads me to believe that he's an early MVP on the NL side. Shea Langoliers for Oakland, Sacramento, Las Vegas having a heck of a year too, with 50 hits for the Athletics. And then you got Alci Albus in Atlanta too. So not surprised you're seeing a lot of Atlanta's, and what do you know, Atlanta's like the top team in the league. So anything here in RBIs or hits that you guys like?
There's no Aaron Judge.
There's nowhere. There you go. I like that.
No, but Podges, he's kicking butt right now.
He is.
Yeah, he's doing great, and Olsen in Atlanta's really having one nice season down there.
Could be early MVP candidates for sure. Stolen bases, another Washington. Nasim Nunez is right there with Jose. Jose just continues to he's getting older and older, yet somehow he just finds a way to steal bases. O'Neal Cruz for Pittsburgh, Jose Cabrera for the Yankees, and then Bobby Witt, of course, for the KC. So I assume you're pleasantly surprised to see some Nats on this list here, Scooter.
Yeah. In fact, I didn't talk about CJ, but having him up, I mean, number 2, it's just really you're seeing why they're actually doing well, because they're hitting. They got guys stealing bases. I mean, there's things going on there, so it's nice to see.
Yep.
But I will say also Jose Ramirez, God bless him.
Yeah, he joined. I forget what. There's another club that he joined this week. I can't remember what it is, but I'll find that stat.
He's gonna be joining a lot of clubs like that.
He is
over the next few years.
He's on the pace, so I love seeing it. He's the home run count's a little down. He's only at 6 so far, but he could have another 30 season under his belt here before we're done. So, Sarah, any thoughts on the stolen base leaders?
Jose, I'm so tired.
There you go.
Jose,
There you go. That works. All right, so now we shift over to the pitching side. Cam Schlittler for the Yankees just off to a great start at the 1.35. Davis Martin for the White Sox 1.62. Jose Soriano and the Angels has refound his career. He's just off to an amazing start. He's got the 166 ERA, and if you look right there next to it, he's also got 61 strikeouts. Bryce Elder for Atlanta off to a good start, and so is Nick Martinez in Tampa Bay. On the strikeout side, you're seeing the usual suspects here. Mizrowski for Milwaukee leading the way with 70. Sanchez not far behind. Dylan Cease having a good year for Toronto, and then you got Gavin Williams in there for Cleveland as well. So anything on the earned run average leaders or strikeout, Scooter, that catches your eye?
Yeah, I think like there's a lot of fantasy baseball players who didn't pick Soriano, who wishes they picked Soriano because
Yeah.
God bless him. He's having one heck of a season so far. He's right up there,
It's crazy.
And that's the Angel. They're still kind of, they're not out of it.
Yeah, where would the Angels be if it wasn't for Soriano and his start? Like it's like
Yeah,
that's the crazy part of it. So, Sarah, anything on the ERA leader being from the New York Yankees?
she's really nice today.
I know she is. Like I just keep hoping. So on the wins and saves, you got Mason Miller leading the league in saves for the San Diego. Riley O'Brien off to a good start for St. Louis. Kate Smith for Cleveland, both with 11. Lucas Ergig for Kansas City, which has been a pleasant little surprise in the closer role. Then on the win side, the Aaron Ashby for Milwaukee. Jose right there with 6, and Chris Sale, and then you got a couple other guys with 5. It's early in the season for wins and saves, but I just thought I'd throw them up there for fun. Scooter, anything on that?
Oh yeah, you're seeing Soriano again in
Schindler's List. I didn't see that on here.
I was calling him Schittler. But you're seeing them up there, and Chris Sale's having a really nice year too. By the way,
he is. Yep, which no surprise. Again, that's why you see Atlanta where you see him. So
yeah.
All right, well, let's get in. Let's take a little break, and then let's get ready to talk some hockey. So we'll be right back after this. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are back, and it's time for what's Showtime, Sarah and Scoot and I, what we do best, and it's time to talk some puck, and we will start our drive to net segment. Before we get going into any of these series on the PWHL, the HL, the news just keeps coming out about the TV ratings, and needless to say, if you are a fan of the sport of hockey, you just have to love what you're seeing. The news came out for the first round. It was up 70% from last year between both ESPN and TNT and TBS and wherever else TNT was throwing games at, True TV, everything else you name it. For game one last Saturday or 2 Saturdays ago, for game one of the Canes Phillies, that's Carolina against Philly. Right, not your big market teams. I mean, Philly's okay market. ABC got 2.5 million. That was their most watched second round game one on record. The Canes and Phillies, then Canes and Flyers then followed up on game 2 nights later with 2.3 million, which was the most watched round 2 game 2 ever. So the NHL cannot be. We talk about the Olympic bump. I think Olympic bump is even more than what I was thinking it would be, because you don't have those big market teams driving the ratings, and yet the ratings are still through the roof, and the games have been good, which has been helpful. You haven't had many blowouts, so people have tuned in to watch, and they're not leaving because they're all good games. So Scooter, I assume you, like me, am just ecstatic to see these numbers.
Yeah, it's nice to see numbers. Like you were saying, there's the Olympic kick that's coming out of it, which helps. Another thing that helps is the fact of the matter is that ESPN and the networks, I'm trying to say this place, are actually going out there and trying to promote the NHL. I mean, for years it wasn't done. The NHL has always taken a second seat to everything, and there was no push to ever do this kind of thing. So it's really nice. There's the marketing aspect of it too, but there's also the aspect is you're going to get in the NHL playoffs. Yeah, and I think this will carry on. You're going to get a whole bunch of new or not regular season regular hockey watchers in the playoffs because the playoffs are so intense and
Yep.
there's such good games and they're totally different than the regular season games. And you sports fans know that. And that's what they watch. And that's what's going on there. And it's only going to continue to get bigger. It's nice to see, it shouldn't be about like, oh, it's like, oh, we're going to go out there and dominate, the ratings, stuff like that. But it's good to see that. But Philly is a huge market. And I can tell you, every one of those people, they're very much because of the Sixers and what the Eagles have been doing. And the Flyers, I mean, the whole city was entrenched with the Flyers. So there must have been 3/4 of every household watching that thing.
Yeah, it's. I agree with that, and like you're actually seeing like Pat McAfee on the Pat McAfee show on ESPN actually talk hockey,
Right.
daily, which is good to see. So yeah, hopefully that continues, and for sure. So Sarah, are you also equally happy with the TV ratings?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I know you were worried that it wasn't going to be as high because you have all the metro teams usually out, like New York and the like the bigger teams for sure. But I mean, obviously Carolina, Philly, I think it's the bigger one to talk about because it's the one breaking records.
Yep, it's good stuff for sure. All right, then we had the NHL had their draft lottery, and for those that don't know, there's always been talk for years and years and years about the NHL draft lottery and how teams seem to magically that only have an 8% chance seem to win it. This year was one of those years. I'll be honest with you, I thought if they were going to rig the draft lottery, it was going to be rigged for the New York Rangers, not Toronto. But Toronto also is what didn't surprise me. So Toronto wins the first pick in the draft. San Jose, I think maybe to try to we'll throw them off by making San Jose get the second pick, and they were also had a low percent chance to get the first or second pick, but they ended up with the second pick, which means that Vancouver, which statistically was the worst team in the league, should have had the number one pick. They will now draft third. So Scooter, are you buying the legend that this was fixed and that surprise that Toronto gets it, or do you think that this was just purely the ping pong ball coming out correctly for them?
The ping pong ball coming out correctly for them. I mean, you saw Washington, we just talked about with the Wizards, what they had like an 8% chance to win or 10% chance, something like that, which is better, I guess. Right. But I mean, they got it. So, and it's like the NBA is not like, oh, we want Washington to be good. They don't. They hate Washington. That's why they never market anything in Washington with the NBA. And no one like Kevin. He doesn't want to go to, he loves everything Washington, but he doesn't want to, play with the Wizards. And now he's too old, so screw him. But the NHL in this way, it just happens. I do love the, conspiracy stuff though.
There you go, Scooter. You said the word hate today, so now you get on the hate counter. Sarah, any thoughts on Toronto winning the first pick?
Prayers for Gavin McKenna. They will be needed.
Yeah.
I would love to see like a live, because like even like last they did have Gavin McKenna on there, but obviously I think they were more so talking about him going to Vancouver. But if they just still had his live reaction like they did with Connor Bedard going to Chicago, like just I would love to see his reaction saying, "Oh, you're going to Toronto instead." And the thing is, like, I was reading this whole thing. It's like, I don't think Toronto's gonna draft a Canadian. Like, they usually like drafting their Americans. So maybe I don't know. Like, I would like to think that Gavin McKenna drops, just so
we'll get into that when we get closer to the draft. I'm not sold that Toronto's going to take McKenna either. But we'll get into that when we get closer and closer to the draft. I agree with you. I'm not sold that McKenna is going to be their guy. But we'll get into the reasons why when we get closer to the draft, and we can do a little mock draft between us. So when we get closer to that time frame.
Not that it would happen. I want to see McKenna do an Eric Lindros to the Quebec Nordiques. I will not play with you. Trade me.
I'll not play with you. Trade. Yeah. Well,
and it did. It worked.
Man, that would be fun, right?
One of them, Eric Lindros wound up with 0 Stanley Cups because of that trade. And Quebec turned into Colorado, won 2 Stanley Cups because of that trade.
Exactly. It's good stuff for sure. And then we had the PWHL. They are expanding. They announced their 9th team for next year, which is going to be Detroit. This was really not a surprise to anyone. The PWHL has done these games throughout different U.S. cities, and they've done 3 of them in Detroit. Every single at Little Caesars Arena. All 3 of them were sellouts. So it does not surprise me at all that is the 9th team. They're going to probably expand to 10. I think the 10th team will come sometime after their season ends. There's been a couple different talks. I've heard Pittsburgh being mentioned. I've heard Philly being mentioned. I would not be surprised if they decide to go out west somewhere just to add somebody else with the Seattle, Vancouver mix that you got going on out there to give another team out that way. So we'll see where they go for the 10th city, but I'm not surprised by Detroit. Are you, Scooter?
Pizza. No, I mean Detroit. Obviously, if you're going to put a women's hockey team, you're going to put it in Detroit. So that makes sense. I hope the PWHL doesn't go overboard with putting out too much product and not enough return, because that can kill them. So baby steps in this kind of thing. Brand new. You don't want to overdo the market.
I agree. I think that right now with what they're seeing with how these arenas are selling out, and I think there's enough good ladies players out there to easily go up to 10 teams. I think once they get to 10 teams, they might want to pump the brakes a little bit and slow down. But I think getting up to 10 teams makes sense, and I don't think it's going they need to get maybe a few more markets to get that, because what they don't have right now is the big deal. They have TSN's contract in Canada. They don't have a deal like that yet in the US. Yes, you can see it on YouTube. Yes, you can see it on Prime Video, but they don't have that big TV contract yet in the US. I think maybe getting a team in Detroit and another big market might help that for next year, and then we'll see what they do, because that's the one thing they don't have. They don't have TV revenue yet. Everything that they're generating is off of gate revenue, which has been phenomenal. Their gates, every place is selling out. I mean, hell, like not the Boston, they were playing at TD Garden to a big crowd. I don't think they were quite sellouts, but they had 16,000 in there for the Boston Fleet game. Minnesota is playing where the Wild play, and they are doing phenomenal there too. So Sarah, are you happy with this, with Detroit getting the team?
Yeah, of course. Now I think the 10th team will obviously kind of be closer to the West Coast, because that seems to be something that they are also trying to kind of increase. Of course, I mean, you do have Seattle and Vancouver, and then I guess with Detroit, you're still kind of trying to go out a little bit more that way. So it'll be interesting to see where they do announce it. I need to look back at where they have
Maybe
gone.
Colorado.
Huh?
Colorado has drawn really well too. That wouldn't surprise me if they went to Colorado.
Yeah, they tried doing Colorado. I have to look at like the other places that they went just to kind of see where exactly.
And so with that is our perfect segue into the PWHL update for the playoffs. One series is done. Ottawa upsets Boston. They win the series 3-1. We talked about the goaltending going into these. This series did not disappoint. Gwyneth Phillips was just got the better of Aaron Franklin in these last 2 games. Basically throughout there, they both were stopping, was it here? Phillips was stopped 36 of 37 in game 3. In game 4 was a bit higher scoring. That one was 4-3. Aaron Frankel stopped 20 of 22 though in game 3. The game was tied at 1 when Ronja Slavkonen scores a pretty goal with just 29 seconds left to win that one. Game 4 was kind of up and down. It was a 2-0 Ottawa. They got up first. There was no scoring at all in the first period. Then they get up 2 and then 3:25 in the second on the goal by Rebecca Leslie. Then Boston scores 3 goals in a minute 33 to take a 3-2 lead. Megan Keller got her second of the tournament and one of those 3, but then Brooke Hobson ties it up the game at 3. And then in the overtime, who was it here that had the overtime winner? I got it in here somewhere. Although that's Slavona that won in the overtime with a minute 12 left. So Ottawa, kind of an upset. Boston was the 2 seed. Ottawa was the 4 seed. But all 4 of these teams are really close. And we talked about the goaltending in this one. And both of these goalies were on the U.S. team. Both of them played in games. And the one that won the gold medal and played in the gold medal game was just slightly better. That showed in this series. Scooter, any thoughts on this one?
Well, it looks like Canada's getting closer to a championship.
They could. They have 1 team in it. They could have a second team in it. We'll get to that series in a little bit. Sarah, any thoughts on this one?
I mean, I'm not too crazy about it. Obviously, we'll talk about the next matchup, but if we get an Ottawa Montreal finale, money.
And speaking of that, this game 5 was supposed to be tonight. We just had breaking news just before the game came out. They didn't say which team, but there's some team that has some type of health issues going on. So game 5 was supposed to be tonight between Montreal and Minnesota. However, that has been postponed. There has not been a date announced yet for the makeup game. I'm happy, though, they're doing that because these teams deserve to be at full health. Game 2, remember game 1, which was last Monday's show, that was kind of high score. Game 2, though, was exactly the game that we thought it was going to be. It went to triple overtime. Montreal wins it 1-0. And Renee Devens made 38 saves. Maddie Rooney was 51-52 in the losing effort in that game 2, but she was amazing. The Marie-Philippe Poulin, who is, of course, Canada's gold medal standard, gets the game winner and buries a pretty goal off of a pretty pass from Abby Rourke to win that game 1-0. Game 3 was more the same thing. Montreal won that one 2-1. Rooney was a little less tested in that one, giving up 2 goals on 19 shots. And Renee stopped 27-28. Haley Skamura had the game winner in the second and the assist on tying goal. Game 4, though, Rooney turns around and gets a better hand of that one. She stops 29-30, while DeBen stops 28-30. Minnesota gets an empty netter goal. The game was tied at 0 going to third period. Thought, oh no, here we go again. Montreal scores a minute 13 into that third period on a goal by Maureen Murphy. Then Sydney Morin scores her third and fourth goal for Minnesota to give them the lead, and then Kelly Panic adds the empty netter. So game 5 will be able to be seen on Amazon Prime and also YouTube here in the States. We just don't know now when this game 5 will be. Scooter, I know you were chirping about this the triple overtime game when that was going on live and watching it live. Any thoughts on this series and especially what it's going to do for women's hockey?
Yeah, well, I was looking forward to the game 5. I was going to watch that, but I guess we'll have to wait a few days. Hopefully, the ladies can recover and keep their health going. But that triple overtime, that was pretty sick. So I worked late that night and I came home and I'm like, oh, I'm going to check out the women's hockey because it's a 0-0 game. And that's when I watched all the overtimes, and it was really exciting. It was just like NHL. Is it NHL level? No, but the intensity was there. There was checking, and at one point, one of the women looked like she wanted to punch the other women in the face. Then they had to be broken up. So there's a lot of that stuff going on. But the goaltenders were outstanding on both sides. And in Minnesota, it was kind of cool to see is Kenny Klee, the old Washington Capitol defenseman. He's their head coach, so that was cool.
He is.
But yeah, I would recommend that game 5 should be pretty awesome.
Agree. Sarah, any thoughts on the Montreal Minnesota series?
It definitely has been crazy. Obviously watched a little bit of the overtime game that they had. I do think Montreal is still pretty solid in this. Obviously rooting for the Canadian finale. I think Montreal's got it tonight, not tonight, whenever it is.
Be curious to see. I'm curious to know which team is having the health issues, because I think that could maybe play into this here as we keep moving forward on this thing for sure too. So, all right. So now let's get into some minor leagues hockey. The East Coast Hockey League. So far, this one we're seeing all chalk hold up here. The number 1 seeds are all undefeated in divisional finals. Kansas City is up 2-0 on Allen. Fort Wayne is up on Toledo 1-0. Wheeling is up on Maine, and Florida is up on South Carolina. So we are not seeing any real surprises in the East Coast Hockey League. So we'll move forward on that one just because we are catching up on time, but I do want to give Scooter some time to talk about this one because I know he's going to be excited about this one. In the AHL, only the Central Division is all chalk. That one you have Grand Rapids against Chicago. None of these series have taken place yet for the division finals. They will be starting up here. I think tonight is the first one, but I'll save that one for last. Cleveland and Toronto kind of upsets in the North. Cleveland, the 3 seed, Toronto, the 4 seed. They'll be matching up against each other. In Pacific, you got Coachella Valley, which pulled off the upset, taking out the Ontario Reign. That's Ontario, California, not anywhere in Ontario, Canada. They get Colorado. But the big upset was Springfield, which finished 38 points behind the Providence Bruins, pulls off the upset and wins that series. So they get to take on Wilkes-Barre Scranton in the championship game. So, Scooter, I'll let you have some fun because I know you're loving Springfield winning this series.
Yeah, that was awesome because the Bruins are the best team in the league.
They were.
They had 110 points, and they should have taken out Springfield easy. Not so fast, my friend. Springfield comes out and takes care of business, and way to go. They move on, and it was the biggest upset in points wise in AHL history. And that's a lot of. Of course, I mean, 100 teams make the playoffs in the AHL, and there's
Right.
only 102 teams in the league. But be that as it may, it's one heck of a feat.
It is, and now we're down to 8, and you can see some teams, and that's why I put their affiliates in parentheses by their name. You can see some teams that have some teams in both of them. You see a lot of Seattle's, you see some Colorado's, you see Detroit's, you see Carolina's in there. So it's just kind of interesting to see how that will all play out throughout this here. Sarah, any thoughts on the East Coast or the American Hockey League that you got before we go to commercial?
And obviously, I would love to talk about Chicago. We were able to see like a little clip of the, I believe it was because one of the games against Texas had gone to overtime. I think we were able to see that the overtime goal. I remember. I think I'm not really 100% sure of which goal it was, but so obviously Chicago got that series done. So obviously I'm biased because that's our affiliate team, but we do have a lot of a lot of solid young dudes on there. So
We do. It's good things if you're Hurricanes fan for sure.
Mhm.
All right, speaking of the Hurricanes, let's get into the NHL. But before we do that, one last commercial break, and then we'll be right back. All right, so we'll get into the NHL playoffs here, series by series. Of course, there's 4 series left. We start with the one that has ended yet again. Carolina just continues to roll. They sweep Philadelphia in 4 games. Now, again, this series, the games 2 and 4 were close. Both of those games were overtime winners there for Carolina. They will get the winner of Buffalo and Montreal. There is a possibility Carolina could sit for 12 days because Buffalo and Montreal, which you'll see, has only played 3 games so far. But Carolina is the first team to sweep the first 2 rounds since 1985 when the Edmonton Oilers did that. And Edmonton, when they won their first team, they're the first team to sweep both 4-round series ever in the NHL since the NHL went to this 4-7 format. They're the first team to win 8 games in a row from the start since the 1985 Edmonton Oilers, who then won the Cup. There's a few teams that have won 8 in a row to start. 4 of the 5 of them have gone on to win the Cup. But the question is going to be, the 12 days rest does have me a little bit concerned. Logan Stankoven still the story. He scored 7 goals that line. Taylor Hart had one of the overtime winners, and Jackson Blake had the other overtime winner for Carolina. So I'm not surprised that Carolina won this series. I'm a bit surprised that they swept them. Now, granted, Philly had some injuries. The injuries to Tippett, I think, definitely changed the ability for Philly to get goals in this series. But you could tell Carolina is a seasoned veteran playoff team, and Philly was kind of their first time in it. And I think that showed in this series with some of the penalties that Philly would take at times. Scooter, what are your thoughts on this series and Carolina and their 8-0 to start this playoffs?
Yeah, the 8-0 thing is pretty impressive because, like you said, that just doesn't happen. So here we are, and but Carolina, they face teams that kind of worked out in their order, as they should, being the number 1 team in the conference. They should be able to face the teams like that in a way. But Philly, I thought this would go 6 or 7 because just how fast Philly was. But I mean, once they didn't have Tippett at all, and then there were a few other injuries, and that just pretty much that was it. Once that went down, I mean, Philly stood tall.
Yeah.
But would they have like 13 shots on goal
going in the last game? They
Yeah.
well, yeah, until going to the third period they only had like 10, 12 or something like
Yeah.
that. The third period they poured it on a little bit, but then the overtime, Carolina just dominated the overtime until they finally scored it. I
Right.
think the backbreaker for them was the second game because Philly dominated the overtime in game 2.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden Carolina comes down and scores. And I think that was the backbreaker for Philly. I think that's the one that just kind of, sealed the deal, so to speak. Sarah, I know you like the series. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, just seeing game 1 was pretty confident, obviously, that like we obviously knew what we were doing. Game 2 got like a little more obviously concerning, because I mean that game really could have gone Philly's way. Came right back to it game 3, and then game 4, like it was weird. Like we weren't fully there. Like the game was just very like I was talking about it in group chat, like it was just a very boring game, not in the sense of like, oh, like it's a blowout, just in the sense of like not really either team is doing much. And like I was scared that game was gonna go into 4 overtime just to torture me because it's like like there wasn't much going on. It's like it looked like both teams were fighting in a way, but I don't really know how to explain it. But obviously Carolina got that one done. I mean, it was nice for the Philly fans to still be, rooting for their team after they lost, doing their little chants. I'm sure some of the city burned down a little bit, but
surprisingly, it didn't.
Yeah,
it's very interesting. But just I don't know. I am a little concerned about playing either Buffalo or Montreal. Right now, obviously, we'll get into it, but just I don't know how that series is going to go because I really went through more so doubting either of those teams, and now I'm like, they're persevering a little bit more than I thought.
Yeah, I don't know who we match up better with. Yeah, I think it's honestly Buffalo, but I don't know that Buffalo's coming out of that series. And speaking of that series, let's just go ahead and bring it up here. So right now, Montreal leads Buffalo 2-1. Buffalo won the first game 4-2. Then Montreal has found their offense with 5-1 wins and 6-2 wins. That's 11 goals in 2 games. If you don't want to do math very quickly. I kind of think that the Alex Lyon bubble has popped because he played so well against Boston, played really well in game 1. I don't know how much of it was really his fault in game 2 or 3. He did not get a lot of help. It'll be interesting to see if Buffalo tomorrow night goes back to Ekapuka Luukkonen. I think they may, just to see if it changes things up. And he played well against them in the regular season. He had 2 starts, won one of them, and played pretty well. So it wouldn't surprise me. Alex Newhook for Montreal has 5 goals. Yaroslav Slafkovsky has 4. Buffalo's power play, which did really well in game 1, has kind of fizzled out since then. So if you're a Sabres fan, I think you might be starting to worry because I think Montreal might have finally found their offense. And if they found their offense, that's going to be bad news for Buffalo. I don't know if they have the defense to stop it, but do you think does Buffalo have a chance to right the ship in game 4 and get back into the series, Scooter?
I think it's been tough in game 4 in Montreal. Like this is like, I mean, look at how Montreal showed up to Buffalo. So, I mean
Yeah,
Montreal.
That game 3, Buffalo scored the first goal, and you're like, okay, here they go. And then next thing you knew, it was like 4-1.
Yeah.
It did not phase them at all, giving up that first goal. So
No. And Montreal's just scoring. And that's you can't stop the scoring. You're in deep trouble. And Buffalo seems to be in deep trouble right now. Buffalo, remember, we haven't been team hasn't been to the playoffs. So like these guys, most of these guys have never been to the playoffs. It's definitely not together. Yep. So they're learning just like Philly was learned that's what Rick Tocchet said about we may have gotten swept by Carolina, but these guys they went through a process and they learned a lot because of it. So you could see that with Buffalo. Montreal, they're a little more seasoned with that team. It's a nice younger seasoned team, but I think you're just seeing Montreal just being a better team now.
I agree. Sarah, any thoughts on this one?
See, I have a feeling that this game might go into games 7 games, but I don't know if I want that because obviously like we said earlier, Carolina could be resting for 12 days. Resting is good. Over a week is scary. So with obviously with the past 2 games that Montreal has had, I want to say maybe in 6, just because of no, because I could also go for 5. I don't know, maybe 5 or 6, obviously. Just because of the last 2 games that Montreal have had, how much they pulled away from Buffalo, even it wasn't even close score-wise. So I think obviously, like you said, if Montreal has truly learned what they've done, or what they have, then they're going to take away with it like they have in the past 2 games. So they're at home, for tomorrow. I'm losing my days. They're at home for tomorrow. So they could easily, get that 3-1 lead, and then might obviously struggle again in Buffalo, say whatever, and then back home they're good. Game 6 they're solid. But also as of right now, it doesn't look like the home advantage is really bothering them right now.
Agree. We'll see how that goes on Tuesday night. Like I said, it's just crazy that the one series is already over with, and these guys haven't even played Game 4 yet. So we'll see how that all plays out. And we'll discuss the break even more as we get closer to the next series at Carolina. Again, Carolina will get the winner of this series. Out in the West, this game is tonight at 8 o'clock. Game 4 of this series, Colorado won the first 2 at home. Minnesota wins Game 3 at home. And I think this is the one series that has the potential to go deep and be back and forth a little bit. Colorado, of course, had started off winning 6 in a row themselves until they lost against Minnesota for their first loss in the playoffs. We talked about the PK for Minnesota. The first couple games, it was not good with them giving up a couple power plays goals. They went from Gustafsson to Gustafsson played in Game 2, which I was a little surprised that they did that, but then they went back to Wallstedt for Game 3, and he got his revenge, stopping 35 of 36. Minnesota, of course, gets goals from their big guns and Kirill Kaprizov and Quinn Hughes, who is just continuing to have an exciting postseason. So here we go. Game 4 tonight. Does Minnesota make this series even and get us to an exciting point where we're tied at 2, or does Colorado come back and put the chokehold on this series? Scooter?
Yeah, well, this is one of those situations where, Colorado just lost a game and Minnesota's back in it. They could be like, ooh, we're back in. Okay, because they'd be down 3-0, that thing's done. But Minnesota's back in it. So they got that going. In Colorado, they were like, we're the best team in the league. Like, it's hard to sweep playoff series.
Yep.
Nobody, besides Carolina, nobody really does it consecutively. So, you're going to lose a game here. You're going to lose another game here. And that's okay. You don't want to lose too many games, of course, because then you're gone. But, Minnesota's a good team. So this is a good series. So,
agree. Sarah, what do you think on this one?
So I did watch a little bit of the Game 3. Not too much crazy to say. Did watch Game 1. Don't even know what happened there. Couldn't tell you. Just looking, obviously Game 2 is a little bit more easy, but I feel like this series, I don't even think it's like just a series of goaltending. I think it's just a series of literally who scores more goals, just because of how like gigantic both teams' offense is. Like, you got Kaprizov, Hughes, and way more that I'm not coming to name right now, but just in that sense, then obviously Colorado, like Natchez, McKinnon, and like all Landeskog, like all of those big names. It's not even a series of like who has worse goaltending. Like, they're both solid goaltenders. It's just there's such crazy offense, and there's good defense too. But like it overpowers the offense, overpowers the defense, and I think it's again just a series of who scores more goals, and you're probably going to see that for the rest of the series. I'm loving that Minnesota's putting up a fight. That it's not a complete sweep. Giving Colorado like a little run for their money. I don't know if it's gonna stick, just because even in the first round with Dallas, you didn't really know if they were gonna pull it off. So this one might be the one where it's like, again, it still sucks that Minnesota literally had like a Western Conference final matchup in their first round, and basically having the same Western Conference matchup in their second round. So. Yep. And then they go into the actual Western Conference final. Mm-hmm. So wherever they go, they're just going to be beat up entirely. So I don't know. I still couldn't really tell you where this one's going to go.
The good news is, though, is even if they get beat up, they're going to get to face the winner of this series, which I'll be honest, I've had a really hard time watching this series. It's just not, I don't know. It's just neither one of these two teams excite me. But it's tied at 2, Anaheim and Vegas, and they flip-flop. Vegas has won a game, Anaheim's won a game, Vegas has won a game, Anaheim's won a game. That's kind of continued. It had a little controversy in Game 1 where there was an icing that was waved off that then Vegas scores on. Which I get, and I understand the argument of it, but people have to, it's a hybrid icing, and we're not going to get into the weeds on that because I don't have the graphic to pull it up. But I thought the linesman did a solid job of waving it off loud and proud so that everyone knew that it was waved off. And the bottom line, it was just a failed clearing attempt. So you got to get the puck out, and the guy didn't get the puck out. You get the puck out, it doesn't matter if icing got waved off or not. Besides for that, though, the series has kind of gone back and forth. Mitch Marner does get his first career playoff hat trick in Game 3, which is good to see. Anaheim, Beckett Schnecke scores his 4th of the playoffs to start the game. And they finally got some past Connor Hart in a losing battle. Brett Howden scores his 7th for Vegas. So that's just some of the numbers from the series. But I don't know, Scooter, if you've been able to get into the series at all, because it just has not excited me at all, this series.
Yeah, I mean, there's the reason why it doesn't excite you is because, like, if Colorado wins that series we just spoke to about, which I believe they will, probably within 2 more games of right now, um, whoever wins this series is like, okay, we're that guinea pig. We're going to lose them 4. Like, because there's always I don't want to say always, but a lot of times in the NHL, all of a sudden you get to the conference finals, you're like, oh, like a great team's like, oh, we get to play them, yay! Because the other team just like really shouldn't be where they are.
Maybe Vegas somehow steals a game against Colorado, because I could maybe see Connor Hart playing well enough to steal
Yeah.
a game. But yeah, that's about it for me. I don't see Anaheim being strong enough to, like, Dokel is going to get absolutely rocked, or Dostal is going to get absolutely rocked against Colorado, I think. So, Sarah, are you getting any love at all out of this series? I know how you feel about a certain Vegas goaltender, but are you happy that he's still in the series, or hoping for them to just lose these next 2 games?
Sorry. Yeah, I mean, I don't even have to say the words that you want me to say, because it's like it's already given with a whole different conversation that we're not going to get into because we're already over. But I haven't been able to get into this series. But I mean, I love that Anaheim's putting up a fight. I would thoroughly enjoy Anaheim winning this series. Do I think it's still going to happen? I don't know, but at least the series is going to 6. The crazy thing is, though, if this series does go to 7, whoever wins it, it's not going to be pretty. I think, like we said earlier, like the winner of the Minnesota Colorado is going to the Stanley Cup final. It's not going to be anything from this series, I can tell you that, because Anaheim, if they make it a 7, cool, but then you have to go against Colorado or Minnesota. Vegas, why did it take you 7 games to beat Anaheim? That's, like, already was crazy that Edmonton lost to Anaheim. And then now, if Vegas obviously does beat Anaheim, then it's like, why did it take you 7 games to do that? Or 6 games to do that? Because I think a lot of people predicted the sweep out of this. Like, or just, a lower thing. But no, it's going to 6. So, I don't really care about the winner of this series, because Colorado or Minnesota is going in for the Western Conference Final.
I'm not sure what exactly happened here, because all of a sudden we went from 0 comments to 10. So I don't know if they weren't loading or something. So let me get through some of these comments here real quick. So I apologize, guys, that had through your comments in there, and we're thinking maybe I was just ignoring you. I was not. I just looked up, and
Hi, Anthony.
all of a sudden shows up. So Anthony checking in, saying hi. Chipper says inexperience starting to show for Buffalo, not looking good, but hoping they can turn around. Yeah, I agree. I think, but it's funny. Like, Montreal's only got, like their guys were just in it for the first time last year, but I think you can tell what difference that 1 year can make in that. So we'll see we'll see tomorrow night. I think tomorrow night's a big game for Buffalo and trying to stay alive in this thing. Anthony says both Buffalo and Philadelphia. My comparison has always been like Florida when they won the President's Cup and got eliminated in the first round, and the next year when they lost to Vegas. Yeah, I mean, I think both Philly's really young. I mean, like they're just young. But we'll see what happens with them in the offseason. I think I think they're Philly's going to be a problem in the Metro for the next few years, and I think the same thing of Buffalo. If assuming both teams can take the next step. Chip says talent's there, but needs the experience. I think he's talking about Buffalo, which I agree with. Lost to Vegas. I'm not sure which team. Oh, it's for his comment there when they lost to Vegas. Yep, I got you now. I believe Colorado over the last 15, 20 games are 19-5. Yeah, they're a beast. I mean, there's no doubt about that for sure. I think that's I mean, I predicted Colorado to win this thing when it's all said and done. Feel whoever wins the Stanley Cup is back of their heads is going to feel like it's a victory because they felt they didn't beat the standard with the Panthers. I won't agree with that, Anthony. You win the cup, you win the cup. You don't care who it's against or when you do it. Especially, I don't. Look, it's we all know why the Panthers aren't there. If the injuries and time finally caught up to them. I think we saw that with Edmonton too. But I don't think that has any. I don't think the teams will care, and I don't think that anyone will really hold it against them that they didn't. That Philly or that Florida, excuse me, was not in it. Scooter, do you think anything on that one?
Hey, Washington had to beat the rookie Vegas to win the Stanley Cup. So no, not at all. You win the cup, you win the cup. But I do like where he's coming from in his team oriented approach on that one.
Yeah, and I think Carolina you might say, hey, yeah, you only won it because you didn't have to go through Florida this year. That argument I think you could make, and that could be an argument to make. But we'll see. Sarah, do you think a team cares if they go through the team that won it, not if they win the cup or not?
I mean, just going off of that base, there were a lot of teams that weren't in the playoffs this year compared to last year. I mean, you had a lot of new teams popping up, with
Yep.
Anaheim and
Only
sorry.
two of the final 8 were in it last year. It was Vegas and Carolina. Everyone else that's in the final 8 was not in the final 8 last year.
Yes, sorry. I didn't think about that. So I mean, just going off of that base, you could make up this whole thing. It was like it's only because you didn't play this or you didn't play this. But I mean, again, like you said, that could be said for Carolina because once we get to the Eastern Conference Finals, if we lose, we called it. But if we win, there's going to be like, oh, well, it was only because of this. It's only because of that. And I mean, that's going up against the Montreal and Buffalo team, which I don't think anybody had any expectations for whatsoever to make it that far. So, I mean, I do agree, like, oh, it's you win the cup, you win the cup. Yes, do the former contenders scare you a little bit? I mean, gosh, Vegas didn't win the cup that long ago either. Colorado, like I feel like those are still like the scarier ones because they could come back for it. And Florida obviously had their little downfall a little bit, so it's like you're not as scared as much. Obviously, it'll be interesting to see how Florida bounces back next season to where you could make that argument again, or whoever wins the cup, and it's this whole repeating cycle. But I don't think it matters in this one.
Well, Florida had their chance, and the season said no.
That's true.
Season said no.
A lot of injuries there too. Anthony said also the West has always been very offensive heavy. They play zero defense to think of. To be honest, the East is better overall conference on both sides of the ice. The Metro this year, I don't know. I mean, I see what you're saying. I do agree that I think the West is more offensive oriented, but I think the Central Division had the top 3 teams when you go back to back, and that's kind of what Chip says. Can't compare to Carolina's. The talent of the opponent is much better in the West. Dallas number 3 overall, Mini number 7, Ottawa number 9, and Philly number 11. Carolina pressed with a much easier sweep. I agree. I mean, they definitely had the easier road out of all the teams, but I still think sweeping 2 series in a row, I mean, there's a reason why it doesn't happen that often. So as he said, although the Kings stink too. Well, that's true. But hey, that's where Colorado earned that right to play LA first. So, and he says, don't count Mini out. It definitely Colorado's to lose, but Mini could shock. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think they could, especially Colorado question. Yeah, well, Wedgwood's been okay, but not this series. Not like Vegas was blowing people out. Yep, we agree with that. And then woulda, coulda, shoulda. You win the cup, you win the cup, and that's the beauty of. Yep, I agree. Yep, you win the cup, you win the cup. I think that's ultimately what we agree on there. So, all right. So, any last second hockey thoughts before we wrap this thing up here, Sarah? I know you got to get going. So, if anytime you want, Sarah, I'll let you go first. Anything you want to say or wrap up before you can then head out?
No, I'm good. I think.
Okay. Well, if you got to check out, you can check out Scooter. Any last second bits on hockey before we say get ready for our adios here?
No, it's a really fun Stanley Cup so far, I think, and you guys in Carolina are really enjoying it as you should right now.
Yes, we get what you're trying to say, Anthony. It's not that. I hear you on it. I just think ultimately, if a team wins the cup, they are not going to care who it was against or how it happened. They're just going to be happy that they won it. Chipper checking in saying good show, peeps. Thanks for the comments, Chipper, and good hearing from you as always as well. All right, so let's see. Next week, May 11th, we're gonna, of course, we'll keep wrapping up these hockey playoffs as we get closer and closer to the conference finals. The PGA Championship is next week, and then also the NASCAR All-Star Race in Dover. Scooter, I know we're running a little bit late, but any quick thoughts on either one of those 2 events?
Well, the Dover race is an all-star race. That's going to be fun, and that's in Dover, Delaware. And the PGA Championship is just west of Philadelphia. So both are about 45 miles. I'm about 45 miles from each of them, that kind of thing like that. And it's it's interesting because those things just sort of come up. But they've been really marketing this all-star race down here big time. So it's interesting. This weekend is a Philly Delaware thing going on with hockey or with golf and NASCAR. So it's cool.
Very nice. I like that a lot. And we'll talk about those two events then next week for sure. And we do have our sports Pricing Family Out of Sports show coming up on July 20th. And this one, this is another one that we're just starting on. I just actually brought it up about 45 minutes before the show started with Coach Devon. I want to do a show between the two of us combined, since I've got the Monday night show at 5 o'clock and he has the Monday night show at 7 o'clock. And speaking of pretenders and contenders, the guests tonight are going to be Ian Hale, head coach of Suitland, the head football coach at Suitland High School, and then Tenardo Sharps, the head football coach at Meade High School. Again, he takes a very fun approach at looking at the local sports, but he talks to a lot of coaches. I know a lot of officials, and I thought it would be great to have a show about a couple different aspects, how coaches and officials work to building rapport towards each other during games. Not that doesn't always play out where you do have some yelling sessions. We'll probably tackle that too. Dealing with parents from a coach's perspective and dealing with parents from an official's perspective, and then the overall decline in the numbers of officials working youth sports. I think these are all important topics that between the two of our shows, I think we can tackle and do something fun with, and hopefully it'll be entertaining. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be a big show that's going to come up where we'll combine our two shows together into one and have some fun topics there on that one. So just some stuff down the road to keep an eye on. And of course, I mentioned the pretenders and contenders already. But you can see all of our great shows. Unapologetic Sports tomorrow at 6:30. They had a great segment last week with who is the GOAT in basketball. If you did not see that, go on YouTube and catch that. A lot of great debate over who is the GOAT. I don't know that a true definite GOAT came out of it, but it was fun to listen to. I enjoyed just hearing it. I was joking with them on that show. They sounded a lot like from the barbershop from Coming to America. That was the mojo that they were giving off, and I was there for it. It was just so great listening to those guys. Then the Tuesday night flight, of course, as well. Nothing But Net we mentioned earlier, because they're going to get you caught up on everything that's dealing with the NBA. And then you have the Thursday night throwdown as well, the WrestleManiacs on Saturday, and then the Sunday Rise on Sunday at 11. So there's the lineup. Scooter, any last second thoughts before we say goodbye?
Saturday is Armed Forces Week, so if you know any veterans or active duty serving our military, you tell them to go down to Mission Barbecue, get a free sandwich. But we're also doing today, every day this week, there's veterans that get free sandwiches. So today was for the Army, tomorrow's for the Marines, Wednesday's for the Navy. Thursday's for Air Force, Space Force, and Friday is for the Coast Guard. And we're having a live national anthem sing at every Mission Barbecue in the country at 12 noon on Saturday. So it should be really cool. We have an honor guard coming in from the Delaware Military Academy at a high school in the local area.
That's awesome, Scooter. So, and that's every Mission Barbecue anywhere in the country, right?
Yeah.
So there you go.
160 of them.
There you go. So if you're in the area there, please check that out and help support a very good business that's very good for the veterans. So I got nothing else to add to. Enjoy your week, everybody. And as I always say, make sure that you hug your loved ones, tell them that you love them, because tomorrow is not guaranteed. But hopefully you'll be here next week with us here on Drive Time, and you'll catch everyone during the week on their shows. And we hope everyone has a good week. So until then, everyone, take care, and we will see you next time.